collaboration of the greatest minds our generation has to offer. Games Workshop and some video game company brings you Darktide. It's a video game based on Warhammer 40,000. But wait, there's more. Now, from the collaborative minds that brought you Darktide, the video game based on the Warhammer 40,000 miniatures game, we bring to you Darktide, the miniatures game based on the video game based on the Warhammer miniatures game. I promise I promise you'll love it. It's okay. If you've been watching the channel recently, you've probably seen a video where I picked up these color cubes to see their value for creating color schemes on our miniatures. And I walked away from those tests not only really impressed with the color schemes and how well they looked on miniatures, but even more surprising was how much the cards and the cubes invigorated my excitement for miniature painting again. Look, we all go through low points where we don't have a lot of motivation to sit down at the hobby desk, and just knowing that having a simple piece of cardboard that gives me colors that, if used together, create a stunning paint scheme really did the trick for me. And that first video had a lot of wonderful comments, and a lot of you asked if I could create a video where I paint a model with a randomly determined card, so today we're going to do exactly that. And of the 500 color scheme options in these two boxes, I got card 290. It is a balance of cold blue tones and fiery warm tones. And these are certainly not the spectrum of colors I would grab for altogether for a painting project, but that's why we're doing this today, right? I gotta go get the card now. Last time we painted up a fantasy figure from the Age of Sigmar range, so today we're going sci-fi. And I've got the Darktide box that Games Workshop graciously sent me, and I think we're going to paint up this weird-looking Psyker Conehead that's in the box. Now for the skin, I'm just going to use the 3 warm colors to build up a rich, saturated skin tone. I'm just following the white zenithal prime from above, using that pure dark red in the shadows, and mixing in more of the rust orange and mustard yellow in the brighter areas. Now, like most of you, I typically start painting skin by using one of the bottled skin tones across any of the miniature painting ranges. And by painting without those, I'm quick to realize how desaturated those colors really are. They've got grays, whites, blacks mixed into them, so they're pretty flat on the model. You can always make a color more desaturated by adding that black or white yourself, but it's so much harder to make an already flat color more vibrant. And yes, I am allowing myself to use a pure white and pure black for today's paint job, but really seeing how these pure saturated colors come together to make a skin tone that really jumps out at me at arm's reach makes me want to start painting this way a lot more rather than just starting with skin out of a bottle. Oh, and I'm only mixing in white to our skin tone for our final boost of bright highlights, so we can keep that punchy vibrance we've created with these wonderful warm colors over the majority of the surface of that skin. Moving on from the skin, I'm sticking with our warm colors for a little while longer while I work up this funny looking trench coat thing our Conehead is wearing. I'm going to use our deep red for the inside of the cloak and our mustard yellow for the outside. Because everybody knows that ketchup and mustard go together, I know my wardrobe is largely based around that 2-color combination. By establishing both the skin and this large coat as warm, we'll be able to make better decisions on where to place the cold colors in what details later. As I'm painting this yellow all over the outside of the cloak, I'm starting to realize this is looking like a rain slicker. So I just assume our Conehead here is actually Georgie from It.
Hi, Georgie.
I add just a touch of black to the yellow to get a darker color for those areas that will be more in shadow. But otherwise, I'm using our pure mustard yellow on all of the folds and upward facing surfaces. Painting all this yellow reminds me that I don't typically paint large surfaces with yellow. I don't know why. I don't have anything against it, but I am reminded that yellow paint, no matter which brand you're working with, is not going to have great opaque coverage. So you need to be a little bit patient and just make sure you get full coverage over 2, 3, or 4 coats. Oh, and a tip for any paint that doesn't have great coverage is not to mess with it if it's looking streaky or splotchy as you're applying it. Just place the brush stroke and let it dry. If you mess with an area in an attempt to try to cover those streaky sections, you're gonna tear up your partially dried paint and create nasty texture on the model. I decided that the shadow colors of this yellow looks a little bit too much like a green ochre, which is what happens when you add black to yellow, which is a good thing to know, but I was going more for a warm coat here. So what I did to remedy that was thin our rust orange paint way down with water. I then dabbed most of it off of my brush onto a paper towel and then gently glazed it into the shadows. And this did a great job of bringing back the warmth and richness to our coat. And the best part about it is I'm only using 6 colors here. So I didn't have to rack my brain over which color on my paint racks to use to try to achieve this. The colors that I need are here. Just grab one. I finished up the coat by pulling the inside red color out onto the trim and added a bit of the rust orange and white to create a highlight color for this trim that has some harmony with the orange that we used to shade the yellow outer coat. Now it only makes sense that Georgie is wearing blue jeans while he's out sailing his paper boat into the storm drains. So to make that, I just took some of my sky blue and I added a little bit of black and a lot of white to give us a nice, cool, desaturated gray color. Now, because we already have some punchy colors in this scheme, and we know we're going to be adding more bright, cool colors later, I need to find opportunities to balance those out with more subdued colors, so we don't go cross-eyed while we're looking at the model and trying to determine what to focus on. I also knew that I had planned to use the smoky color as the boots and the gloves for our Georgie here, so I wanted to make sure that I had a light color next to the dark boots, and this blue jeans obviously was the perfect fit. Now, because these boots and gloves are dark and not our main point of interest, they are a perfect thing to half-ass. That means we're not putting a lot of work into them. I'm just going to add a little black into the shadowy recesses and folds of these to add a little bit of more depth, and then I moved on to a single highlight. With every day that passes, more and more balls are neglected. Balls that could bring so much joy to the world are tossed aside in some smelly bag instead of glistening in the glory that is their true potential. But fear not, we needn't fight the battle for our balls alone, for today's sponsor, Manscaped, has the perfect package for your package. Their 5th generation lawnmower 5.0 electric trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade designed to reduce grooming accidents. Although your balls might look like punching bags, please don't treat them like one. The Performance Package 5.0 also includes the Weed Whacker 2.0 nose and ear trimmer with a 7,000 RPM motor and upgraded cutting performance, a battery life of 45-minute runtime, and is created with proprietary technology which helps reduce nicks, snags, and tugs on your most delicate of face holes. Also included are the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant, because no one's gonna love your nuts if they smell like an egg salad sandwich that's been sitting out in the sun all day. Also, by being a beloved Ninjon viewer, you get 2 free gifts: these anti-chafing boxer briefs, as well as this fancy Manscaped Shed travel bag. So to get your very own Manscaped Performance Package with the 2 free gifts, plus 20% off and free international shipping, all you gotta do is click on the link down in the video description below and use promo code NINJON at checkout. A big thank you to Manscaped. Now let's get back to the video. To create that highlight, I'm pretty sure I just added a little bit of sky blue to our smoky black, and that just gave us a little bit of blue tint to those highlights. And honestly, I can't remember what a lot of the highlight colors I mixed together to make for most of this model. You know, overthinking what color to use or being afraid of mixing paints is a hill we all have to climb in our mini painting journey, but it's one that's well worth the hike. An experiment like this is a great way to get started or to get a little bit of a reminder about color mixing, because you can lean on the fact that the color scheme was already figured out for you. Your color decision-making part of your brain doesn't need to be in action. So really, there's no wrong answer to which colors you mix in. Just make little puddles on your palette, see what looks good, and use those. Oh, and if you don't own them already and you wanted to pick up the color cubes, there's a link down in the video description, and the company was really nice enough to reach out to me to set up an affiliate link, so you do support the channel a little bit if you decide to pick them up. Now is the time to start a punch of cold colors, and this loincloth? I typed out loincloth. It auto-corrected it to lioncloth. So Georgie, the conehead, is wearing a lioncloth. Georgie's backstory really is quite deep and has a lot of unexpected twists and turns. Now for that lioncloth, I'm going to wet blend our dark blue and our sky blue. But where the colors mixed together on the models, they kind of created a frumpy, desaturated, sad color. Best way I can describe it. Now, like a moron, I just kept mixing the colors back and forth on the model, hoping that if I furrowed my brow enough and made enough really fast motions, the blend created would somehow get better. It did not. It's still sad. In an attempt to bring back some vibrance, I used just our pure sky blue in thin layers, pulling the brush up towards the top of that lioncloth. This got rid of most of that sad color, and I just kept layering up that sky blue a little by little until it jumped out compared to the pants and boot colors. Now, in addition to his lioncloth, Georgie here also seems to be wearing a Matador sash. Now, this is very useful where Georgie comes from, and I think the correct color for his Hogwarts house would be a very light blue. I add white and just a touch of black to our sky blue to give us a good starting point, and from here I just mix in more and more white in my layers. I don't ever want to start with a pure white even when I want to paint something white, because it can be really chalky. It's easy to get texture on your model while painting pure white, but here if I just inch my way up coat by coat, I get a lot closer and have a lot more control about ending where I want to end. Now, as I built up towards this cold off-white, I realized that I wanted to keep this a little bit more in the blue spectrum to really hone true to the color scheme on the card. So I didn't go up to a pure white, and I kind of like how it's similar in blue to the lioncloth, but just different enough that it separates the two surfaces. Georgie's got some belts, pouches, and other assorted brown things on him. Our color scheme doesn't have a brown, but it's pretty easy to mix your own with just some black, some red, and then keep adding more and more yellow until you get that correct warm brown that you're looking for. But we're not going to spend a lot of time showing the painting of belts and pouches and other small bullshit that you've painted 100 times, and it all looks the same on every model. Next. Now, Conehead Georgie has a good amount of metallics on him, and while I want the silvers to fade into the background a bit so we highlight the main colors of our scheme, I picked a gold that I feel is really similar to the amount of warmth that our rust and our mustard combo have on the rest of the model. And if you're still watching the video at this point, I've got great news. You get to hear me plead to you to subscribe to the damn channel. You see, over 40% of you aren't subscribed to the channel, and I don't want you to miss out on future videos you'd enjoy just because the algorithm wasn't recommending me on a given day. So please help me out and subscribe to the channel. And if you are already subscribed, a massive thank you. And if you want to go a little half step further, you can hit that bell icon. What that does is not only notifies you of new videos as they're released, but it also allows YouTube to know that you care. And if you care, that means they're going to recommend my channel more often to other hobbyists. Now, I hate painting tubes on 40K models, and the trick that I do is paint them all silver, then come back in with black Templar contrast paint to give them a darker look than the rest of the metallics, while still keeping a touch of that highlighted shine on the raised areas of those finicky little tubes. Tubes. What a weird word. Tubes. Maybe it's only weird if you say it like that. Tubes. For the golds, I wash them with a flesh wash because I want this shadow that's brought in to be warm as well. I don't want it desaturated or muddied down with a black or a brown wash. You probably notice I'm not putting a ton of focus and technique into these metals. I look at it this way. If you can really sell the color scheme and vibrancy and pop in the other areas of your models, these sections do not need to take much time or attention. Now, if your model has a lot of metals on it and you're kind of concerned how you're going to get all of these these colors from your card onto the scheme, think about maybe making some or all of those metal plates or weapons an actual color. And you can always go back in with a little chipping with a pure silver paint. And after putting in just a minimum amount of effort in edge highlighting some of the metallics, I'm going to try to finish off this model strong by creating a final pop of color and focus. I'm going to paint each of the cowl orbs a pure white. Now, I don't know why a raincoat wearing conehead Matador has such large orbs on a cowl behind his neck, but I do know that they're there for a very specific purpose, and we're going to make that up. I take our pure sky blue paint and thin it way down with water to create a heavy wash. And I'm going to put this wash over each of the orbs. Now the paint is going to run into the grooves all around the orbs, giving us a quick, vibrant glowing effect. I push the paint around on the orbs so not too much of it collects up on the top, and we can kind of push it where we want it to go if we take our time. I'm really digging with how this is looking, and it's obvious that Georgie's power is what's giving these orbs their glow, so it only makes sense that his eyes would glow in the same way. Our final step is the base, and I was having so much fun mixing these 6 colors together on my palette to see what colors they'd make. I just took a bunch of those weird mixes and slapped them on the base. Was this a smart idea that everyone should use for painting a base? No, but I already had the colors out, so I was going to use them, so that's why it's that color. And with that, our color cube roulette is complete. Now, does Georgie here look a little bit like a fireman from the 41st millennia? Yep. Is that a bad thing? I honestly do not know. Why don't you let me know down in the comments if you think that this color scheme worked out well for this model, or you think it's a hot garbage mess. And while you're moseying down there in the comments section, why don't you leave any other crazy ideas or challenges you have for me, because this one was based on your thoughts, and I did enjoy my time hanging out with old Georgie here. And as odd as that transition was, I think that's my takeaway from this experiment. You don't have to do some grand, over-the-top, innovative thing in your mini painting to really enjoy it and to learn a thing or two. Sometimes you just find that spark that gets you to the painting desk, and that is the most important thing. So thank you for hanging out with me and Georgie as we went through this challenge today. I really appreciate all your support, for subscribing, and a big thank you to my patrons for supporting me over there as well and putting up with my ridiculousness. For just a couple bucks a month, you too can join the Ninjan clan and have some fun with us. Now I'm going to be back before you know it with another video, and the next one is going to involve me painting something a little bit bigger. But sometime between now and then, make sure you find time in your day to slay the gray. Is it recording? Did I forget to press record? I didn't. Otherwise, I'm using that pure mustard all over the hot dog. Otherwise, I'm just using that pure mustard.